After everything that has happened over the last week with OpenAI, its partnership with Microsoft, AWS partnering with Anthropic and investing in that company, Alphabet obviously has its own AI division. And then, of course, there's Meta, which is actually open sourcing a lot of its AI models. In the artificial intelligence world, the one company that seems to be a little bit out of the loop is Apple. But this is not a company that I would underestimate in artificial intelligence or anything related to tech. Apple has never been on the bleeding edge of technologies. They're not going to be the company to introduce something first. They're going to sit back and watch what works in the marketplace and then be the second or third company to come in and just have a better user experience than anybody else. So there's one key that I think Apple has over all of its other rivals, and that is the interface that we're actually working with. So that's what I want to dig into today, why it's going to be maybe a little bit harder for some of these other companies to beat Apple in AI than we might think. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool, check out fool.com/ASYM for their top 10 stocks to buy right now. Now, it's easy to see why a company like OpenAI and its partner Microsoft are going to be the leaders in artificial intelligence. They have some of the best models out there. ChatGPT had 100 million users after about 2 months. And Microsoft is now integrating a lot of the artificial intelligence tools into its products. But here's the thing. Microsoft is going to be leaning on the fact that it's the operating system for PCs. So for personal computers, for work, for people who are writing emails, for people who are doing word processing or Excel files. That's where artificial intelligence is going to be really important for Microsoft as a company. It's for things that people are doing on the PC. But the more valuable market is ultimately on the smartphone or in the devices that we're attached to almost 24/7. So whether that's the smartphone, whether that's the future of glasses, or it's even something like AirPods. And the company that controls the most valuable space there is Apple. When OpenAI launched its product, you have two ways to interface with it. You can use the website. That's fine if you're sitting down at a PC. But if you're on a smartphone, what are you going to do? You're going to use the website or you're going to use the OpenAI app. Well, neither of those things are going to be automatically integrated with what you're using, whether that's AirPods, that's Apple CarPlay on your phone, or even just your iPhone itself. You're not going to be able to have the best user experience by opening up that app and interacting with it. Every single click that you have to make is a point of friction that ultimately could be taken out of the system. And Apple is the one company, because they control the operating system, that can do that. The other thing that I think is overlooked right now is Apple's control of the chips themselves. We have seen NVIDIA become an extremely important company in the artificial intelligence landscape because that's the company that's making the chips that are building these models, that are doing most of the inferences in the cloud. That's why they have so much demand for their products right now. But in the future, if we start moving that inference piece or the artificial intelligence work that's happening when you ask it a question to devices or to the edge, the company that's going to be doing a lot of that is going to be Apple. Apple could be doing that in its own data centers. If you're asking Siri, that's what they do right now. Or they could be using artificial intelligence on device. Remember, Apple designs its own chips. So if you're using an iPhone, a Mac, or even AirPods, you could move that inference to the chip, especially for very simple questions. And as these models get more efficient, as data connections get faster, I think owning that chip piece is going to be very important. If you're interacting with OpenAI on an iPhone, for example, not only do you have the friction of opening up the app or the website, but now you're also making a call to the cloud. That's going to be slower than interacting with whatever Apple develops for its own devices. Now, the unknown for Apple is that we don't know exactly what they're developing. They could be developing their own models. They could be using open source models. They could even create a partnership or acquire another one of these companies that's creating artificial intelligence models. But Apple doesn't have to invest tens or hundreds of billions of dollars in these companies that are developing OpenAI, in the companies that are developing AI today, because there are at least options that are starting to be open sourced. One that I talked about earlier is Meta's tools that have been open sourced. Now, Apple would fall under a category where they're going to have to strike a deal with Meta to use the Llama model. But I don't think that ultimately is going to be the only open source option in artificial intelligence. And Apple is going to be able to be optimized for its devices and for its chips. So when you control that entire ecosystem, you're going to be able to create the best user experience. And I think that ultimately is going to be the most valuable piece for Apple. Siri was sort of a step in that direction, but Siri is obviously not the best use for artificial intelligence. Some of the design pieces were not great, but we've seen that there are models that exist today that can answer very specific questions, and Apple has the technology to read that back to you. So you could have your passive interface be something like AirPods, and you can just ask it a question without actually interacting with your device. Apple is going to be the power source there because they make the hardware. That's where that friction is going to be. That's where controlling the operating system is going to be most important. So most people think Microsoft has a lead along with OpenAI in artificial intelligence, helped by NVIDIA. Those three are absolutely going to be power players, especially on the enterprise side. But when we move to commercial devices and the way that we're likely going to interact with artificial intelligence every day, it's the same devices that we're going to be using every day that we're going to have to interact with. So the question for us is, are we going to be opening a new app and interacting with something new? Is there going to be a new piece of hardware? We've heard that Sam Altman and potentially OpenAI are starting to think about developing hardware. Or is it going to be the hardware that we already have in our pockets that hundreds of millions of people around the world are already using? I think that's going to be the case. And that is going to give Apple a leg up on the competition that will ultimately bring a lot of value to the company and make its products even stickier, because that little bit of magic that Apple has in the way that their products are designed, in the way that they interface, is going to be extremely valuable. And like I started this video with, Apple has never been a first mover. So we would expect that it's going to be a second or third mover. So we would expect that it's not going to be matching OpenAI with the pace of development and launching products. It's going to be a little bit behind, maybe even a year or two behind. But for the average consumer, that's exactly where they want to be. They want these products to be perfected, to not be hallucinating. And the average people just want an AI to answer their questions or do the thing that they're asking it to do. Even if you are a great prompt engineer with ChatGPT or one of the other AI models, it still doesn't always give you the right answer. So maybe being the first mover is not going to be ultimately the best position to be in. But what do you think about Apple's position in artificial intelligence? Love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.